Welcome back to Taj's Garden. I'm the gardening realtor, and if you're new here, I'm glad you're here. If you're in zone 7B, right now is the perfect time to get your spring garden started. So today I'm going to be going over 15 crops that you can direct sow or transplant to get your spring garden up and thriving. Let's get started. Let's start off with leafy greens and brassicas. So we're going to be talking about kale, spinach, collards, Swiss chard, broccoli, cabbage, lettuce, and I'll throw in 2 extra arugula and pak choy. So if you didn't start your brassicas or your green leafy vegetables like broccoli, lettuce, cabbage, collards, pak choy, if you didn't start those in February or January, now would not be your time to transplant. Now would be your time to direct sow these. So direct sowing would be you directly putting the seed out in the soil outside and allowing it to just sprout on its own. The difference between direct sowing and transplanting is if you started them early, you're able to go outside and plant those transplants into the ground, and you will be getting a quicker harvest than the ones that will be direct sowing the seed. So your cabbage and broccoli are going to do way better if you start them indoors and then transplant them outside in March. Make sure that you space your cabbage 12 to 18 inches apart, and make sure that your broccoli is spaced 18 inches apart. This is going to allow for the right amount of airflow to reduce the risk for disease. Broccoli and cabbage both need full sun and nutrient-rich soil, so make sure that you fertilize with a well-balanced organic fertilizer. This is the one that I use. I absolutely love using that type of fertilizer. It's organic and it is perfect for pretty much all vegetables that need all NP and K. Broccoli and cabbage both do phenomenal in cool temperatures, but if you are expecting a temperature below freezing, make sure to cover them with row covers to protect them. Now let's talk about lettuce and Swiss chard. You can both direct sow or transplant lettuce and Swiss chard. What I'm going to be doing is direct sowing both of these. I did start lettuce early in January and February. What I always do and what I recommend everyone to do is succession sow lettuce. That way you can continue to have a harvest throughout the entire year. Lettuce does phenomenal throughout the entire year. You just have to make sure that you choose the right varieties so that they can grow in very cold temperatures or very warm temperatures. So I'm going to be direct sowing my lettuce because I have a ton of lettuce that I started indoors that I have already transplanted outside. I'm going to start direct sowing lettuce and direct sowing Swiss chard in March. With both lettuce and Swiss chard, you can use a method called the cut and come again method. With lettuce, you can harvest from the outside and it'll continue to grow from the inside. With Swiss chard, you can cut it and it'll come again. And you can do this a couple of times and get multiple harvests out of both of these. Next are collards and kale. Now, both of these are cold hardy vegetables. Collards, I actually started these early and I will be transplanting these outside. You can try direct sowing these, but you'll get an early harvest if you start these early and then transplant them in March. Kale, I actually started these early as well, but I will definitely be direct sowing these so you can 100% do both for both. Make sure that you space your collard greens 18 inches apart and your kale 12 inches apart for optimal growth. Next is spinach. Now spinach absolutely thrives in cool weather. It will bolt once the temperatures start to warm up. This is absolutely the best time to be growing this. If you started these early, you can transplant them. If you did not start them early, you can 100% direct sow spinach outside in March. Make sure to keep the soil consistently moist but not overly soaked, and you can space these plants out 4 to 6 inches apart. For a continuous harvest, you can make sure that you harvest from the outside in, just like leaf lettuce. Now let's talk about your root crops, your onions, your potatoes, carrots, radishes, and turnips. All of these can be direct sown. I grow my potatoes in buckets. I use potatoes that I purchased from the grocery store. Those regular potatoes that you purchase from the grocery store have been sprayed with a very strong pesticide to halt the sprouting process. So that could make it harder for you to get a harvest if you use those, because sometimes that'll interfere with the sprouting process overall. So for better results, make sure that you go purchase organic potatoes. Eat some of them. Whatever you don't eat, leave it in the pantry. That's what I do. And once they start to sprout, I take them outside, put them in my bucket, and grow a ton of potatoes. I will do a video soon on the exact method that I use when growing potatoes in buckets. Radishes grow extremely fast. You can be ready to harvest from your radishes within 3 to 4 weeks of direct sowing them. Make sure to continue to direct sow them every 1 to 2 weeks if you want to have a continuous harvest. And these can be spaced an inch apart. Next are turnips. You want to direct sow your turnips, and turnips are a dual crop, so you can eat both the greens and the root. You can sow these seeds 1/2 inch deep in rows and just thin them out whenever they sprout. If you started your bulbing onions in January or December or February, if you've already started them, you can actually transplant them outside right now. But the ones you can direct sow are going to be your bunching onions. All right, next are your peas and your herbs. I have actually started a ton of peas. You can actually put these in the ground. They absolutely love cool weather. I started some in my raised beds. I put some in buckets, and I also put some in these biodegradable pots because I plan on selling a few but also planting a few. And with these being biodegradable, they will completely break down over time, not harming your soil. Peas are a fantastic crop to go ahead and direct sow now. They are also in the legume family, so they have the ability to grab nitrogen from the air and fix it through their roots. So they will be a fantastic companion plant with your leafy greens. Make sure to plant them with a trellis because they are climbing plants. Next is parsley. Parsley is a very slow germinator, so be very patient. It could take up to 2 to 3 weeks for it to completely germinate, and they grow phenomenal in partial shade. Chives are a perennial plant, so once you plant them, they will continuously come back every year. Make sure to space these 6 inches apart and trim them regularly for continuous growth. So those are 15 amazing crops that you are able to direct sow or transplant outside in March. I'm curious to know what you guys are planting or direct sowing. Drop a comment below and let me know what you have started indoors or what you plan to transplant. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, comment, share to your friends and family. Help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you next time.